Hey, Nobbins, should City try to sign Gavi? Would be perfect player for our system. Issue is convincing him to leave Barca.
Hi, Eddie. Yes, it's not. Yeah, I think you've answered your own question there. To be fair, it's not going to happen. Gavi, Pedri, Yamal, players who have been with Barcelona, since birth or whatever. You're never going to realistically get them out of Barca if Barca want to keep them because of the quality that they are and the association with the club. But yeah, it'd be lovely for City. But yeah, as you say, it's not going to happen.
Didn't Pedro? He was a Catalonian, didn't he? Join Chelsea.
Yeah.
No offense, but that was when he was beyond the peak of his powers.
Yeah. Well, he come into one of the title.
But he was. But that wasn't, 2011, or 2012 Pedro. I think he joined in was it 2015?
It was when MSM were there and he wasn't playing.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
If you tried to go and get Pedro in 2010, 2011, I think that you'd struggle.
Do you not think though with Gavi? I mean, one, does he start for City? Probably not. Two, can Guardiola get in his ear and think, well, hang on, we're a much better with 60 Birkenstein in the back. I mean, you've got the best football setup probably in the world right now. I think he could get in his ear and just say, look, we're in a much better position. They're not going to beat Madrid to the title anytime soon. Now they've got Mbappe, are they? Let's be real.
Some clubs have a certain gravity that you can't escape, and I think that Barcelona are one of those clubs. Real Madrid are one of those clubs, and as as good as I'll big up City as much as I can, but compared to Barca, it's it's not even a comparison. I think
he's Catalonian born and bred, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been with the academy again since he popped out. So I don't think.
What about Dani Olmo?
The way Barca, but that was different. Barcelona let him go to Zagreb. That was a mistake by them.
No, but I'm saying it has happened before. I think it's unlikely with Gavi. One, he's got a stupidly high release clause, but I do think City needs someone in that area. I'm amazed they didn't trigger that.
We do definitely need someone. Yeah, again, I don't know if there's a City topic later today, but yes, we do need still need the Gundogan replacements. That's what City fundamentally needs. We're here over a year later, and that still hasn't happened.
Nobbins, there's a lot of talk about there's a lot of talk. Sorry, mate. There's a lot of talk about KDB moving on as well. So is that going to be a case of we're just going to play Foden there, or is there someone else that you've got your eye on in that position?
It's a weird one with De Bruyne because initially it was he's agreed personal terms, and then he wasn't, and then he was, and then Fabrizio Romano came out and said no, that's not true. So the latest seems to be that he isn't leaving this summer. It's probably more likely that he will leave on a free next year. That seems to be more likely than him leaving now or signing an extension. Were he to leave, I think City would be looking to replace someone. Again, I'll big up Foden as much as anyone, but he's De Bruyne is a player who is irreplaceable. Certainly, he is one of one. So City would need to bring in just an extra body in terms of creativity. But hopefully he stays. Because I think that he and Savio, for example, are going to have a really nice connection with one another.
Is he going to have the legs? Because obviously he missed a lot of games last year as well. So
and that's the thing. To my point of he's irreplaceable. He played less than half the games last year, but he was third in expected assists, for example. That's the levels we're talking about here, and he's one of the best creators in the league. The best creator in the league, obviously, even though he was only here for half the year. Yeah, so he can't be relied upon as much. I think his minutes will be managed. I think that City could definitely mitigate that by playing him in a slightly different role. He's no longer, think of De Bruyne from 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe you think of those dynamic transitions and counterattacks. He can still do that, but he can't do it to the same level anymore. His small space work isn't as good as it once was either. But City can definitely mitigate that. I think of, I'm not saying it's the exact same, but I think of Paul Scholes in around 2008. He was before then he was a more dynamic, offensive box-to-box midfielder around 2008-ish. So all of a sudden he's a deep line playmaker. Similar thing happened to Pirlo in the around 2011, 2012. I don't know the exact year. Something like that could happen to De Bruyne. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he played slightly deeper next season.
Could he play next to Rodri? Do you think in a double pivot with Foden in front?
Oh, that'd be naughty, wouldn't it? That's actually quite scary when you think about it.
The main issue the main issue I'd have with that is because it sounds great, but going back to the point of legs and on the ball, it's fine. It's more defensively because Rodri's biggest weakness for me is not being able to cover space quickly in transition and duel winning. De Bruyne doesn't really mitigate that weakness. That's why I want someone like, for example, Bruno Guimaraes, because that's his bread and butter, covering ground, winning duels. That's why City wanted Rice. That's his bread and butter. I'd be surprised if City played him like that next season.
It could be something that works though. I remember like when Arsenal were literally about to fall off a cliff, and then we sort of like pulled it back. I think we actually beat City 2-0 away, and it was the last time we beat you at your place, I think, in the league, until whenever. But then in that game, we had no midfielders left, so we had to start Francis Coquelin, and then next to him was Santi Cazorla. And Santi Cazorla, who was predominantly an attack-minded midfielder, used to play anywhere in that line behind the front man, then had to play in that deep line. So then that could be, obviously, City are an upgrade on those two, but two players that you don't necessarily expect to be sat next to each other. So
it could definitely happen in some games. I'd maybe expect it to happen. Like if you remember the Chelsea game at City, it didn't work. But Pep tried Rodri and Alvarez in a double pivot together. Obviously, it didn't work. But he's willing to play a striker there. We did see Foden play there, like on the last day of the season. So it could definitely happen. It's obviously something he did like 3 or so years ago. I just think in the main, hopefully, it'll be Rodri plus new signing for the most part.
Well, I was going to ask you, Nobbins.
Hello.
There's been a lot of conversations around City and sort of a lack of activity so far. Obviously, that's spouted a lot of conspiracy theories. Players all looking to leave. KDB, Edison, Alvarez. Are you slightly concerned, worried about the lack of activity, or do you think it's all all in hand? It'll be a player or two over the next few weeks, and you'll be ready to go for the start of the campaign?
I'd like to think that City will be bringing in that play. We have already signed Savio. That's official now. So we have signed someone, which is great. I'm very excited about him. I'd like to think it's all in hand. There's no real reason why we shouldn't be able to spend a lot of money. I remember like reading a report which said like we can spend like I think 300 to 400 million net before having any PSR issues, for example. I think we've already generated sales of 60 million pounds this window in terms of our academy players. Like I think Delap went to Ipswich for like 20 million pounds, for example. So the money's there to spend. Again, I'd like to think that we will do that. I don't buy that, as you say. There's a weird conspiracy. Oh, our City not spending because of the case going on in the background. Yeah. Well, we signed Gavardio for 70 million pounds last year, and we brought in Kovacic, and we brought in Nunes, and we brought in Doku for 50 million pounds, and we've brought in Savio now, who's a very exciting winger prospect. So I don't know if there's any legs in that theory. I think it's more to do with the fact that City, despite what people may believe about City, is that we are, frustratingly, from a fan's perspective, notoriously quite stingy in terms of we will make sure that we negotiate to the last breath in terms of we'll make sure we get the minimum amount we can sign this player for. That's why, for example, we didn't activate Bruno Guimaraes' release clause. Apparently, we didn't see the value in it. I don't agree with that, but City didn't. So City apparently wants to spend less than that. So I'd like to think that's the reason why City haven't been active. I'd also probably be a bit more concerned if other clubs were going mental and spending. But as we discussed, Liverpool haven't really spent that much. Arsenal have signed a player, but again, it's not that much. So yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. I think your front three next season will probably be Doku and Savio. Where do you think Grealish fits in all of this? Because Foden's obviously got his role predominantly now, and will now be the 10. And in the biggest of the games, he may go out wide because of De Bruyne. But I think it's a huge season this for Grealish, because I think if he doesn't perform, I think City will sell him. And obviously, I don't think they're going to recuperate any of this anywhere near the fee of £100 million. Do you think he could go this window? I know there's been a few links of Villa have been looking at him, but they're now looking at João Felix. I mean, I don't know why they're looking at João Felix personally, but do you think Grealish could go this window?
Definitely not this window. As I understand it, there's no suggestion that would be the case. I agree that this is a massive season for him. He's already had like a brilliant season where we won the treble. In my opinion, is one of our better players that year. So, in my opinion,
he gets a lot of unfair stick. I think.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's worth the money anyway. I'm sorry, but if you think we win the treble without Grealish, then I actually don't know what to say, to be honest. But this is a big year for Grealish. He's got to have a good year. We saw how electric and exciting Doku is on that left side. Grealish tends to bring, ball carrying and progression. Well, that's what Doku's bread and butter is. But the difference is if he's got to work on the end product, but to get to the byline and cross and be dangerous in those moments, and also in terms of the take-ons. So Grealish is at risk of being taken over by Doku immediately. So yeah, big season next season, of course. For the most part, I think Grealish will be the main left winger, to be honest, unless he drops off a cliff. But I think it will be, for the most part, only one of Doku and Savio starting. I'd be very surprised if Pep went 2 direct electric 1v1 wingers who love to take on players at the same time on the pitch, especially if we've got Foden and De Bruyne on the pitch at the same time. So can you imagine like a front 5 of Doku, Haaland,
it would be exciting,
Foden,
though, wouldn't it? Like,
De Bruyne,
it would be something good to watch.
Exciting, yeah, brilliant, but it's the exact opposite of control. Like it's just balls to the wall, go for it. It's a sort of front 5 I'd expect. If you're chasing the game, you need a goal in like the last 10 minutes or something. So I really don't think it would be. So yeah, for me, plenty of minutes for Grealish. But I do, to your point, I do agree. Massive season for him.
A few times as well. Like Tottenham, there's been a few reports that Tottenham could go in for him. We should have signed him years ago. We had him in a hotel in Birmingham, next to Paul Mitchell, contract out, and leave. He didn't want to pay the 30 million.
Mm-hmm. So, he's a fantastic player. I think we originally signed him to actually play as a central player because we thought Bernardo was going to leave. So maybe there'll be scope for him to play more centrally. I'm not sure, but time will tell.
Yeah, there's some super chats here from the first one, from Nabil. Nabil says, KDB, the smartest player if he leaves City. They are 100% going down next season. Question is, where will these fans go back to supporting Arsenal or Chelsea? He then goes on to say that
we've not lost any fans.
Says, they have ongoing cases and they aren't spending money because if they get relegated, then surely the players will go for almost free. That's a fact.
I don't know if it is a fact though, because as I say, we spent 70 million on Gavardio last season, and this is after the case materialized. 70 million on Gavardio, which was nearly a record fee for a defender. Brought in Kovacic, brought in Nunes, Doku for around 50 million. One of a very exciting wide prospect. Savio, again, we spent I think it's around 30 million on him. Again, another very exciting prospect. So I don't know if it is a fact, to be honest. To your point of, sorry, Terry, can you bring up the first super chat? I've forgotten what the words were.
I've moved it now, but he basically said that you're gonna get relegated next season.
Oh yeah.
And that's why KDB is looking to leave because he's smart.
Yeah, and your fans are going to go back to supporting Arsenal and Chelsea.
Yeah, again, I don't know if there's any correlation there. Like our players are signing, like Foden, for example, signed a contract extension. So I'm not sure if that's a reasonable conclusion. There's a possibility City will get relegated, but to say it's definitely going to happen is objectively incorrect because it's not even got to the point at which the matter's being heard hasn't happened yet. So I don't know how you can predict it's 100% going to happen when the process hasn't even begun.
I'll be astonished, absolutely astonished if they get anything other than a transfer ban.
Yeah,
I think they'll get a 1-year transfer ban or a hefty fine. Chelsea did, what was it, 6 years ago? But when they sold Hazard, they broke a lot of charges and they got a transfer ban that year. Obviously, City's is a little bit more extreme in terms of the charges against them, but I'm not a City fan. Innocent until proven guilty.
I don't think the lack of spending so far there's someone from City has anything to do with the November court case. I think there's more merit if you're going to do a conspiracy theory. There's more merit in it being involved with the one that happened 4 or 5 weeks ago, which is about third-party associated transactions and sponsors and their real value. If they've lost that, there is the there is the potential with more scrutiny and more rules coming down the line that maybe if some of their revenue streams are a little bit not dodgy, but if a company that's quite small is paying more than it should be, maybe City are in this space. Well, if we lose that court case, maybe some of our revenue over the next few years is going to fall away. So we want to slow our spending. And I don't think that's the case, by the way. I'm just stating, if you're going to come up with conspiracy theory, it's more connected. For me, it would be more likely connected to a court case surrounding sponsorships and third-party associations, as opposed to one that, I mean, that hasn't even started yet. And they're not even going to get a conclusion until the end of the season. And if City are found guilty of all those charges, it doesn't matter if they spend another £300 million this year or not. They're fucked, right? It's almost irrelevant. You might as well. It's a bit like getting caught speeding and then slowing down. You might as well keep fucking speeding. You're going to get the ticket anyway. So again, I like sticking it to City and having a laugh and a joke, but I don't buy into these conspiracy theories in any way, shape, or form. I think it's just because they're looking for the right player or two at the right price, because they have one of the most complete squads in world football. You know, they're not where Man United are. They're not where Tottenham are. They're not where Liverpool are. Okay, to be fair, they need a few players, in my opinion. That were, title contending teams last year. they need a handful of players, one or two in, one or two out, and they'll be absolutely fine, in my opinion.
The only connection I can really think of to like the ongoing APT matter is one of City's arguments is allegedly this would cause us damage. Therefore, the suggestion would be we can't spend as much. That argument gets sort of a little bit poo-pooed if you then spend hundreds of millions of pounds whilst it's still going on. It's sort of like, well, you're saying you can't spend all this money, yet you've just spent like £300 million this window, so that doesn't seem to add up. Maybe that's the only correlation I can really think of.
No, it's just a case of F's given, isn't it?
But even then, Dobbins, you said it yourself. Like, we've all seen the calculations. You're like £300 or £400 million.
Yeah, I'm trying to find some logic.
No, I agree. I agree. That's why I think people are looking for that's like a smoking gun. It's almost, again, I get your point. It's like if you spend and then say, well, you can't spend because of the regulations, you're liars. But it's like the City fans that say FFP was brought in to stop small clubs like us catching the big boys, when under FFP you've done it. So it's almost like, I always find that one that is almost like an admission of guilt. Almost, are you saying that you're actually guilty then because you've done it? But yeah, I just think it's because your squad's pretty much where you want it to be. Savio's coming in, you'll sign a midfield player. Maybe you just didn't think Bruno Guimaraes is worth 100 million, which is what his bar clause was. And if you end up picking up a gem for 40 million and then the extra 60 goes somewhere else, then that'll be it.